Hi guys, I'm Shmi and I'm going to get part 3 of my Supercars of 2015 rolling. Now if you've watched the first and second parts, you'll know that I'm currently on a skiing holiday in Val d'Isère in the French Alps, where it is at the very end of the day today. As you can see, the light is going down pretty quickly and it's snowing fairly heavily, which is always a good thing for some amazing skiing. But like I've told you before, I'm not going to be finding very many Supercars around here. In fact, you're much more likely to find a Macan or 4x4. Now saying that, in part 2 I told you I had seen a BMW i8 driving through, and it turns out that had been filming with the French TV show Automoto, so unfortunately I think they've just left, so I'm not going to catch the car. But there is a big BMW venue here as well where you can do ice driving and stuff, so that's quite cool. Now in part 1 and 2 I've run through quite a few of my favourite cars that I drove during the last year, including 2 of my own, the 675 LT and the GT4, and many others, the Bentley GT3R, the new R8, the GT3 RS. So this time I'm going to wrap up with some of the other cars that I haven't already featured that came up last year during Shmi 150 content, because of course one of the big things, and I said this in the first part, that I find just absolutely crazy is that so many of you guys weren't here when I drove these cars even a year ago, which is just the most bizarre thing ever. How quickly the audience is growing, so I've got to say a big thank you for all of that. Now then, let's get this started. So the first car we're going to look at in this feature is a rather special one. We're going to head to Sweden. Standard, I suppose, if I'm standing here filming with my camera in the middle of the street. So we're going to head to Sweden, and the first car that I'm going to feature is the Koenigsegg CCXR, so the older model before the Agera R, but still a very special one. And this, we were on our way to Stockholm for the start of the Gumball 3000, driving in a Bentley Supersports, and we stopped off at Koenigsegg. That's the most ridiculous sentence I've ever said. And we test drove, well, I test drove the CCXR. The car then, a beautiful orange Koenigsegg CCXR. One of the later cars, so it features a lot of the extra modifications and options, the carbon fibre pieces, the new wing design. Of course, this is the 4.7 litre twin supercharged V8, 806 horsepower on standard fuel, 1018 horsepower when it's running on E85. And I'm going to be taking this car for a little drive over to the runway.
Surprising me a little bit. I thought it was a little bit more about the drama and more about the craziness. Yeah. I mean, it's still very loud.
It's still very loud.
This car, I think, has a modified exhaust custom.
This sounds a little bit better, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an amazing sound, but there is a lot of it, and you feel very part of the ground. You hear lots of the noises around you through all the carbon fibre. Very raw and hardcore, just because you have a very slim view, not in a negative way, you know, but you have a low roof line, the car is quite big, and you have
you can't really see out of the back.
It's quite well out the mirrors though, you see?
And this is okay, I think.
Yeah, you've got a little bit of visibility out there, but the noise going on, it's quite a big deal. After the CCXR, then I just had the start up of this Macan. I don't know if you can tell, but that's a pretty rumbly exhaust. Not sure that is quite so standard on that car. Now it's probably about to drive by me. But we'll move on from the CCXR to the next car that I'm going to feature, which will be the Bentley Continental V8s. This car was a car I drove for the third of my 3-part series of the celebrating the launch of Esso Synergy Fuel. So we were driving around Wales, headed over to Aberystwyth, drove around the Evo Triangle, all in the Bentley V8s. It's actually quite a nice car. I like the Macans. Looks good. Swiss car here. You
probably heard that nice little grumble. Anyway, let's jump over to Wales and the Bentley V8s.
Of course, it's the S model, the V8s, so it's £9,500 more expensive than the standard Bentley Continental GT V8. It's the facelifted version, so the V8 and W12 now have the same sort of design at the front with this aggressive intake here and a more pointed rear lip spoiler as well that I'll come round to. The S being £9,500 more than the standard car is a little bit stiffer, a little bit lower. It rides 10mm lower, has a new wheel design, 45% stiffer suspension springs at the front, 33% at the rear, so the ride is a little bit more aggressive. It lets you dig it in around corners in a more exciting way. You can see around here we've got the new lip spoiler, and on the V8 models, differentiated from the W12s, you have the sort of 8 shape exhaust tips, which are always a nice touch.
The overwhelming sensation when you're driving along in the Bentley Continental is that it just oozes tranquility. It just rolls and cruises, and it's so gentle and quiet. And when we're driving on the motorway, there is so little road noise. I mean, the sound deadening in here is fantastic, and we're running on winter tyres, and they make a little bit more noise than obviously normal summer road tyres would. But it's still so quiet. It just makes you want to kind of sit back and just let the car do its own thing and just be completely relaxed about the way it does it. You know, inside you've got the highest sort of quality of materials and fit and finish, not so worried about weight penalties like sort of a full-on sports or supercar would be. So it's a 2.3 ton car, but you're sat in really, really comfortable seats. You've got more than enough power. I mean, that's not a shortage. And obviously slightly more with the S model, of course, as well. Although I think you'd have a pretty hard time actually being able to judge that yourself. You know, a car that's over 2 tons, you're not going to notice 21 extra brake horsepower. But the suspension setting is where it makes a big difference, because driving like this normally, the ride comfort is still brilliant. You know, this is exceptionally smooth, and when you go over a bump, you barely even notice it. So if you're used to a supercar, the ride is sort of completely insane. Obviously, it's not going to be quite up there with, you know, S-Class type thing, but it's not far short. But then when you do sort of want to push on a bit, it's where you get to feel the feedback from the V8s, improved suspension and the stiffer suspension, because you have so much more turning than you might expect. Just sort of when you're pushing through a corner and the car starts to sort of feel like it needs to be brought back into line, it will do its thing and it will bring itself back through. After the Bentley, we're going to jump to somewhere a little bit warmer and a little bit less snowy here, wet in Wales, and we're going to be heading over to Dubai for the Cadillac CTS-V. This is Cadillac's sort of most immense performing car. It's over 200 miles per hour top speed, big, comfortable, powerful car. Let's go check that out on the roads in the Middle East.
Under the hood, there is a 6.2 litre supercharged V8 with 649 PS and 853 Newton meters of torque. It's a derivative of the engine from the Corvette Z06. So that's a pretty special beast, and it sounds insane. From a visual point of view, the CTS-V has some pretty aggressive looks, especially over the sort of standard car when you have the V-Series. You've got some larger intakes and grills for all the cooling that needs to come in through the front. You've got a carbon fibre hood with the carbon fibre slats through the bonnet there, which sort of channel air over the top for downforce as opposed to sending it under the car, lifting the car up. Obviously carbon fibre is all about saving weight, hence why you have the carbon fibre hood, significantly lighter than more traditional materials, although the whole sort of package with this car is aimed at saving weight. It's around 1850 kilos. So around front you've got the carbon fibre front splitter as well, just beneath those extra vents. And a feature I particularly like is the headlights with the running light strips that come all the way around and down. It's incredibly aggressive, especially when you have the car behind you, because it's right on the outsides of the car, so it gives it a very low, wide stance.
Getting underway then, and we're in tour mode, the completely sort of normal standard driving setting, so the valves are closed, the suspension's softer, just gentle sort of relaxed mode, I suppose you could say. Then we've got sport, track, and then everything off. So I'll go up to sport in a moment, but this mode, it's very, very relaxed, very chilled. The magnetic suspension is incredibly clever. It's reading the road at 50 kilometers an hour every single centimeter, so that's an awful lot of sort of analysing and adjusting all the sort of settings and making sure it's all comfortable and relaxed for you. So manual mode. The shifts are not the fastest in the world, that has to be said. The noise is awesome, but there's quite a lot of lag on upshift, downshift. Then you do that, and it sounds amazing. Got a thumping V8, which I could just do this all the time with, but that wouldn't be so good for my fuel economy. But in general, just a pretty nice place to be sat. And when you pull at higher speeds, I'm in the Dubai Marina here now, so I can't. But when you're pulling away at higher speeds, it has so much performance. You know, it's less than 4 seconds to 60 miles an hour, 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers, and it will keep pulling and pulling and pulling, competing, you know, on the performance level up with the M5 and the E63. Now I'm going to head to a different type of supercar, the Donkervoort D8 GTO. So earlier in the year, I visited the Donkervoort factory in the Netherlands and checked out the D8 GTO. And this was such an exciting drive. I got out of this car truly being like, that was fun. Now I get to drive a lot of stuff. The D8 GTO ranked as one of my sort of highlight memories of this year. Awesome, awesome car. So we'll head over to their test track and give it a drive. What we have here, the D8 GTO, is the flagship car. It has Audi's 2.5 litre inline-5 engine from the TT RS, so 380 horsepower, perhaps slightly more with Donkervoort's remap, but officially quoted at the same. The weight of the car, though, is just 700 kilos. So to put that into perspective, power to weight is just shy of 550 horsepower per tonne, which is a seriously impressive number. You're greeted with this dashboard, and you flick on the power by flicking this up, enabling it. Take the key, which is an Audi key of course, connected to the Audi engine, turn on the ignition, then fire it up. Of us, greeted by the digital display with all the sort of key information you need. You're immediately feeling like you're sat right down on the ground, and when you get any speed up you feel like you're going 1,000,000 miles per hour just because you're completely open and so involved and enclosed and part of it. Any control input is incredibly precise, so you have to be bang on with the pedals, the throttle, and the gear selection. But then when you're in a straight line, spurt, and you can immediately feel the power coming and being available. And this thing boasts sort of performance figures that are up there with almost supercars. It's an exceptionally fast machine, but equally it's ready to bite you. There is no question this thing's ready to bite you. And I've got traction control on at the moment just to be completely safe. But you've got this much power to weight going just through the rear wheels. You can tell where it's going to end up, but that's what the thrill is all about. That's the experience and the driving engagement, and that's what makes you feel so part of what you're doing in this car. And this very car, as it happens, is the one that set the Hockenheim lap record. So it's set up in a very low, very stiff sort of configuration, and if you're the customer you can have that changed and customized and set up exactly how you want, of course. But it's engaging, that's for sure. I'm not on any desperately twisty roads at the minute. We're heading to the track after to do that, but just a picture tells 1,000 words, and big smiles on my face, because this is like a true kind of driving, engaging experience. This is exactly what it's all about. And downshifting is quite nice as well there. It's just awesome. This is a fantastic drive. You can see why I enjoyed it. That thing is pretty special. Now, just before Christmas, I headed to Hungary to join with my friend Josh Cartu to visit Ferrari to collect his new F12 TDF. Now, that's a pretty special car, but for me, it was also an opportunity because we headed to the dealership in his 488 GTB. So it was the first time I'd been able to drive the new Ferrari 488, which of course is one of their sort of cars that's a return to turbocharging. It's got the new slightly smaller V8 twin turbo engine. So this was quite a special drive, although the weather conditions did not really allow me to push it. So I'm hoping that there is going to be another opportunity to properly test out the 488 at some point in due course. But it was a good chance for a first drive in Ferrari's, let's face it, sort of main mid-engine supercar.
When you're in the sort of full auto side of things, it's so much more smooth and chilled, I think, than the 458 was initially. I don't know if that's your sort of feelings when you're driving this car.
Yeah, it is. It is. The engine tone's a lot less sharp, so I think before the valves open, it's just a lot quieter than it was before.
Yeah, so it's very docile like this, but then take it up, go manual on the gears. You still get the sort of V8 downshifts.
Yeah.
With a bit of the noise as well.
I think after getting out of the TDF, like this,
this is going to feel a little bit tame.
It's a little tame, yeah.
No question, there's a lot of punch, and nothing like the turbo lag. That's what they've done so well, using the low boost turbos. It's just enough to have that extra power, isn't it? 670, without there being the whole sort of waiting for it. And you still have the V8 noise, which is pretty nice. It's a bit muted versus the 458, but not, I wouldn't say in a bad way. It still has emotion and character to it.
I'm looking forward to my Spider in March.
Yeah.
I want to hear what the car sounds like, you know, with the roof up. Because with the windows down a little bit. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't really cold right now out here in the snow in the Alps. I literally just got some snow in my eye as it happens. But from the 488, I'm going to head over to my final drive for this sort of mini-series, the Supercars of 2015, and that's going to be the Abt Audi RS6-R, a near-on 800 horsepower super estate. It's an absolutely awesome car, and I can't believe I've actually driven two of them now, and I can't believe how many times or how many views each of these videos get. You guys, I think, absolutely love the RS6-R, and also, of course, the RS6 in general. Look at Yoon Olsen's car on Gumball, one of the most popular cars. He made an absolute monster out of that. But we're going to head over to Germany, to Kempten, the home of Abt, and check out the RS6-R. This line where we're taking a look at the RS6-R. Based, of course, on Audi's RS6, except this one has the 4-litre V8 taken up to 730 horsepower. The stock car has 560, that's already a big number. 730 is leagues more. It also has 920 Newton meters of torque, so you can imagine the performance this thing makes. We're going to take a look around it, talk about the modifications, then we're going to hear the car sound, and then we're going to go out for a little drive. So let's take a look. RS6-R, of course, then very aggressive design styling. You can see around front we've got the carbon fibre splitter, the blades up at the side. On the grille we've got the new RS6-R badge, Abt badge of course. As we come round we can see the new wheels, extended side skirts with a blade towards the rear as well, new Abt fender piece there too, door mirror caps. As we head towards the rear we've got the large carbon fibre spoiler at the top of the rear, and we've got a very aggressive diffuser installed here as well, along with Abt's exhaust system and some additional carbon fibre pieces around the side, adding to the aggressive overall look. First thing with this car, listen to this. There is something so incredibly baller about a really, really fast Audi. And this is a really, really incredibly fast Audi that just happens to sound pretty awesome too. I've driven the RS6-R before actually when I visited Abt last year, but driving it again I'm just being reminded by quite how good this car is. You just put your foot down and the numbers just rise and rise and rise and rise, and it's actually not that bad to drive in the sort of twisty countryside stuff we're in right now, which is really, really cool. You've obviously got tons of space in the back, loads of people, loads of luggage room, brilliant gearbox in this car, we all know that, and you just drive and enjoy it, and it doesn't feel as big as perhaps it looks. on that, I'm going to wrap up my filming for this trip. I haven't seen any supercars here in Val d'Isere yet. I might see something in due course, but it's been a lot of fun for me thinking back to this year and looking at some of the cars I drove, rewatching my own videos, as weird as that is, and just sort of thinking what a truly awesome year it was. I'm just so pleased I was able to share most of that with you guys and let you sort of enjoy the content. I hope you continue to enjoy it through 2016. We've got a lot of things lined up already, and it's looking set to be a pretty special year. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for some of the plans that are in the works. But like I said, I'm gonna head indoors now, get all of this stuff edited. So thank you very much for watching as always. I hope you enjoyed this mini series and stay tuned for a lot of cool stuff right around the corner this year in 2016. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
This is so special. This is so special.